Yes, double your pleasure, double your fun. This is a twofer live stream right here on Geekscape. Starting off, welcome to Marvel Movie Talk. We're here. We're celebrating Spider-Man, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. We've so quickly reached the end. We're going to be talking about episodes 9 and 10, and excited to look back on this whole first season. And there's some excitement about something that's been promised for season 2, not even in the episode. We'll get into all of it with our panel. And at the moment, we've got the only panel we need, a panel of one. I guess two, if I count myself. The one and only Mr. David Brody, the man without fear. How are you, sir?
I'm good. Apparently, my opinions are now 50% of this show, which is terrific. We don't need those other two opinions for the first 5 minutes. So anything we say is 100% accurate.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Everything we say is 100% accurate. And of course, the most important opinion to share in our show is that of Daniel Drew, who says such a great finale. Episode 9 was intense and so many great moments. And we'll talk about some of the specific things. Didn't see the time travel plot. Fantastic fight choreography for both episodes. And there's a lot of excitement for the future. And Daniel's excitedly getting ahead of us. So I'm going to leave it right there. But don't worry. What I will put up is Daniel saying this. I also hope that next season they have a normal 1 episode a week schedule. That would be great. This was a crazy schedule, Brody. I haven't seen something quite like this. The 2-3-3-2 release schedule of your 10 episode series. I can't think of a time that happened, but I was enjoying the show, so I didn't really mind so much.
You know what? I don't mind doing 2 or 3 episodes that first day to get you sucked in.
Of course, yeah.
But then give me 1 a week so that I can get on a schedule. We can do a podcast. We can talk about it. Watch reaction videos, whatever we want to do for the week here on the network. And that's fine. But don't give me rant and then we got to cram everything in. Think about us as the podcasters.
Yes.
Before you release your Disney schedule.
Podcast rights now.
Yes. Don't think about your clientele. And more importantly, if you want to extend your Disney franchise subscription base, keep people for 8 to 10 weeks. Don't keep them for 3 weeks and throw it all at them like yesterday's garbage. Here, take some episodes.
This is an interesting time to mention a little programming note that with your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man over, we are going to be shifting into Daredevil Born Again mode. And we will be doing our first reaction show on Wednesday, March 5th, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. That is the plan. And that will be a 2-episode release. And then on the 12th and 19th, they're doing single episode releases. But then on the 26th, they're doing another double batch, and we're not quite sure for the rest of the season. So we already know that. And speaking of double batches, here is indeed the one, the only Dr. Conner. We appreciate you being here, kind sir.
No, well, it's good to see you. Sorry I was a little bit late. You know what happens when wizards appear and take you off your timeline.
Well, thank you for coming to us from Mr. Rogers' living room. I believe that's picture behind you. So we appreciate that you are here with us.
The little train's going to go by.
Playing the role of I was fighting crime. Sorry, I'm late. Peter Parker, ladies and gentlemen, Eric Conner.
I'm trying to keep my secret identity and a little more on the download.
Well, keep it secret. Absolutely. We appreciate that. In any case, so we're just sort of getting started, kicking the tires and lighting the fires. Let's talk about these 2 episodes. Obviously, episode 9 we'll start with. But as we look back on the season as a whole, Brody, your thoughts on a show that we didn't really know what we were going to get before it started, and now we've gotten the whole entire first season.
So last episode of this show, I shocked the world and I said that I enjoyed this more than X-Men 97. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say I enjoyed it more than Endgame, because I did not. But I thought it ended beautifully. I thought it wrapped up a couple of things. It had the great Marvel climax fighting in the last couple episodes. So very happy with the way it ended. Overall, and looking forward to the second season and us talking about things that are already releasing to tease us for the second season.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. So, Eric, your thoughts on what we've gotten in this season 1 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man?
Yeah, I mean, the world is still shook from Brody's admission last week, and
yes,
I have
Some
nothing.
would say crazy talk. Yes,
Right. The only thing of consequence that happened in 2025, I'd say, is that.
that's
And
the only thing I've noticed.
yeah, nothing else going on, especially in California, not a damn thing.
Nope.
This season was great. I mean, and in some ways, apologies, it's not a hotter take for two hot men like yourselves, but the truth is, like, this works. This is like well written. I love, and I know some people kind of clap back at the design. I think the design is cool. Compared to, like, the pop art of like Liechtenstein, like that's what's really kind of neat about it. It doesn't look like any other animated show right now. And I think the voice acting's great.
Yeah.
Even though there's only one or two actors who are recognizable, they're all good, and they've also set up so much cool stuff for next year without feeling like this was only just set up. Like, I think there's a really good story here. And I've mentioned before, the supporting cast is great. So like, we're invested in so much more than just Peter. And I think that's the real trick of this show is it's the whole neighborhood is really what we get behind and what we care about.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is Our Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and I think they did a great job rounding out the cast and teasing things for that cast, the supporting cast coming forward in the future. I think it is very exciting. I enjoyed getting to know all the things that we've gotten to see. And is there, we'll dive into episodes 9 and 10 in a moment. Is there a favorite moment, favorite interaction, something that Spidey did, something that we got to see in this first season that jumps out for you, Brody?
For me, it was the Doctor Strange time travel scene.
Yeah.
I mean, that I hate to say, it came full circle, but he was actually bitten by the spider that was infected with his own blood, changing the entire history of Spider-Man that we know, the radioactive spider. And Doctor Strange not remembering the high school. And then I was like, wait a minute, he's got to get there. So I kind of saw the time travel thing coming, but boy, they played it out beautifully. To me, that was my favorite, that they brought back episode 1, at the end. For me, that was it. The time travel.
Yeah, I thought that was great. I loved the fight scene with Daredevil. I liked seeing him again in the latest episode. What about you, Eric? What kind of is peak Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man for you, sir?
I actually, you said what I was going to say, Daredevil. And that scene too, it's kind of fun because it's sort of like it's kind of like when Spidey fought Captain America in Civil War. Like it's kind of low stakes, right? We're reasonably certain Captain America is not going to behead Peter Parker, when we first met him. Not reasonably certain here, neither of them is going to be bleeding or dying from this fight. But I think it got me excited about these partnerships and matchups. That's something that I feel like Marvel would benefit from trying to do, maybe less like massive multiverse storytelling and really think about the tag teams,
Some might call it a team up.
Some would. I wouldn't. I refuse to call it that.
You refuse to call it that, yes.
Unless it's the Road Warriors or the Rock and Roll Express in wrestling. No, they're not team ups. But the truth is, like, their energy, how they bounced off each other. And then also I really like him with Doctor Strange. Anytime Strange showed up, I thought they used him really well. And I love how comic book accurate he looked. That's like, as soon as he appeared, I'm like, that's exactly what I envisioned for what Doctor Strange is. And I love Benedict Cumberbatch and what he does with that character, but just that look was so picture perfect. So it got me excited for seeing Daredevil, and the fact that he showed up in this even in a little moment. It's like, great, he'll be back in season 2.
Yeah, no, exactly. So there's a lot to be excited for in season 2, including something that we teased, which was the announcement that we will indeed be getting Gwen Stacy in season 2, showrunner, writer, producer Jeff Trammell mentioning that we will get to see her. But whenever I see that outfit, I'm always worried that like, oh, is she going to instantly be thrown off a bridge? Because if you remember in Amazing Spider-Man 2, when Emma Stone shows up in that outfit, it's the outfit that she wears in Amazing Spider-Man 121. And you're like, uh-oh, it's not going to be a good day for Gwen. But so I hope that we really get to explore her. And there is definitely people are wondering how long before we would see her as Spider-Gwen, aka Ghost Spider. Is that something that will happen quickly? Is it something that will happen at all? Is she going to be a depowered Gwen? We don't really know, do we? So there's lots of speculation. And as I'm talking, I'm just I'm scrolling through his social media to make sure that I didn't miss him sharing an image.
You did.
Yeah, I'm looking for it because I thought that I thought
Same
it was right
link I
there.
sent.
It's the link you sent. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
I just had
it's the other picture in that in his timeline.
Okay. Well, that must have been Instagram because I'm
Insta.
Yeah. See, I'm using his X account. That's the difference. So that therein lies the problem.
Account, not Threads. I thought you were a Thread man.
Blue Sky, baby. Blue Sky.
No, yeah, exactly. But I mean, look, that's exciting, the potential for it. And the idea that we will get to see Spider-Gwen means that more than anything, it means that my daughter will be excited for season 2 because that is her favorite character. So we will get there. We will absolutely get there as evidenced by what Brody sent to me that I'm only now just bringing up. And there she is as Spider-Gwen. So I'll have to show that to my Lucy.
And Christian, as Beetlejuice would say, she's looking bad as can.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. The two biggest superheroes for my daughter are Spider-Gwen and Polar Bear Pete Alonso. So we have both of them to look forward to in our household. So let's dive into the episodes. I was going to say the first episode, but it is the 9th episode, but the first one we watch, Hero or Menace. I want to get your thoughts on something that kind of surprised me. I mean, we have seen a lot of different iterations of Norman Osborn over the years, and they're usually crazy. It seems like a bad choice to go visit Otto Octavius in prison and gloat about how he's in prison and you're not, and you're going to steal all of his things. There's very like James Bond villain. But look, this Norman Osborn isn't necessarily well-versed in being a villain yet. But Eric, I wanted to know what you thought. If you were surprised at all that he's like, hey, look, you're there, I'm here.
Yeah. It sets up a great fight. I mean, the idea of, Sinister Six. I didn't think that word would be hard to say. Them tearing each other apart is pretty fun, and I think the idea of like Doc versus Osborn is, I'm here for that. And I love this first real image of him as Dr. Octopus, how they handle that. There was a lot of moments, and whenever I do screen grabs from these episodes, they're all just so beautifully rendered. Like they're just, to say again, perfect kind of comic book panels, if you will. And so, I mean, Norm, his heel turn was the least surprising heel turn of all time. I mean, we all were just waiting. Okay, when's he going to show some villainy? And we knew it was coming.
You wanted to know, when is he going to be Hollywood Hogan?
Yes, right. When's he joining the NWO? And it kind of, what I like is it still hasn't gone full. So it's almost like he's got kind of like a medium boil as a villain. Yeah, him going to gloat is like, that never seems like it plays off well. But the idea of, I'm so excited to see Green Goblin versus Doc Ock. I think the visuals of that are just so exciting. And and Coleman Domingo, what he's brought to this character too. It's a very different kind of Osborn than we've had before, and I'm here for it. I think it's worked out really well in this season. It can only get more interesting next year.
It's a great kind of understated portrayal of Norman Osborn. We see the times where he gets singularly fixated on his agenda, most notably ignoring Peter having the life almost beaten out of him while he's searching for Ock. It is one of those performances, and again, it's voice acting, but it's so nuanced. It's reminiscent of one of these situations where we know what's to come, and there's not a lot for me anyway. There's not a lot that I love about the Star Wars prequels, but what I always thought was amazing was Ian McDiarmid as Senator Palpatine. It's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that I'm now the Chancellor. I didn't expect this to happen, but it's a pleasant surprise. And just the way that he kind of, and we're like, oh my God, you're the most evil man in the universe. But here you are just, being a mild-mannered guy. And Norman Osborn, a bit of a mild-mannered billionaire, trillionaire, who knows? But I do like that it's like, oh, we know what's coming. And, the way that they're talking about the glider in this episode, we're not quite there yet. I don't think he has Green Goblin yet. I don't think he's keeping it a secret from us, the viewer. My thought is he hasn't done it. What do you think, Brody? And what do you think about his interaction with Doc Ock in prison?
Well, I think there was a foreshadowing for season 2 when Norman Osborn fires entire federal agencies. So I'm looking forward to that in the future. I don't know if you noticed when he first went to speak to Doc Ock on the prison phone, he put a tissue or a handkerchief on the phone so he wouldn't have to handle the dirty phone. And I thought that was such a nice touch for an animated show that they thought to show what a elitist he is, that he had to put the tissue on the phone. I thought it was typical villain maneuver to go to the prison, not the smartest move to upset a man that has created weaponry that you're aware, he creates weapons and villains and could very easily contact people on the outside and have other weapons stashed around the city. I wouldn't piss off a man like that. Just because he's behind bars doesn't mean he doesn't have, let's say tentacles on the outside world.
Yes.
6 of them, perhaps.
Try to break him out.
Right. To break him out. Yeah. So I wouldn't mess with him. I would not have, such a rich douche. Exactly. He's foreshadowing the evil on both of their sides. I would have been like, I don't know what happened. I'll do what I can to get you out of here. I'm so sorry. I would have gloated and gone home and gloated, but it's villain-ese. That's how villains act.
Right. No, exactly. They're speaking in a little bit of villainy shorthand, as it were. Let's talk about, we get the return of the Scorpion in this episode, of course. So I think that's sort of the next thing that we should talk about. But I want to start off with Big Don, who at the first sign of trouble runs away. Now that's the kind of crime boss I would be. Hey, so I might get hurt. I gotta go.
I might not run. It might be more of like a slow trot. I think
I would be Homer Simpson backing into the bushes.
I'd get an Uber.
That's true. Look at you flexing your Wawa cup, by the way.
Living large.
That is living large.
Living.
So the interesting thing that we didn't quite get to see, we're seeing sort of the way this tech is fused with Gargan, the Scorpion. You see the way that it's really infecting his body. We didn't get the payoff. I thought that we were going to see that it was just he would practically drop dead or whatever, but I guess there's time for that. And yes, Daniel Drew is right. Big Man was a big chicken. Sounds like a Hawaii Five-0 reference, but I appreciate that all the same. So what did you think, Brody, sort of about Spidey gets his chance to try to not hold back and try to handle the Scorpion, but he does need Tombstone's help, which we'll talk about Tombstone in a moment.
Well, in regards to Scorpion, I wanted to just, again, paying attention to detail. You remember episode 7 or 8 when he overheated and his shoulders burned.
Right. Yeah. True.
He had the scarring in this episode. They didn't just suddenly forget that he should be scarred up and burned. So I did like that attention to detail. I think the costume's looking better. He's got the headgear, and he's looking more and more like the Scorpion we remember from the comics. quite fearsome. He did, Spider-Man did need help. Conveniently, Lonnie got the super soldier gas serum, apparently. And it was nice to see Lonnie being a good guy temporarily, because we already know he's going to be ultimately a bad guy. He threw off his high school jacket, which was indicative of, thank you for the photo, Mr. Conner.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Conner, he's going to be evil. So it was nice to see them teaming up and him doing a good thing, and maybe feeling a little bit of what it's like to fight the bad guy, even though he obviously doesn't realize he's going to be another bad guy. But I thought the fight was good. And the fact that all that stuff landed on him, the girders, the bricks, whatever the construction site was, and he was fine afterwards, tells you the power level we're looking at. So
yeah, and I think that, it is consistent with the tombstone. We see that there's, some blue residue on his hands that doesn't seem to be something that he could wash off. I don't think that he had a rousing billiards game and forgot to blow the dust off afterwards. I do believe we're seeing sort of the beginning of transformation for him. And
what about the part where Sam Wilson walked by and said, I should have inhaled that gas. I thought that was poignant.
He should have. Yes. What are your thoughts sort of on round 2 with the spider and the scorpion, Eric?
It was done really well. And that's one thing I think in these episodes, really, I think they do a really nice job of how they get across like the big action set pieces, sometimes better than when they're doing like the smaller hand-to-hand fights between humans. Those actually look not great. But the moments of anytime Scorpion's flexing his tail, or Spidey's using his web, that all looks awesome. And same with Doctor Strange. I thought they really make all that pop and really work nicely. Couple things with the return match. I really like that Peter was still dealing with the trauma of the previous time when he almost got killed. I thought the reveal of Tombstone's new power was great, and twice they did a fake out that really worked, him being stabbed, and then of course all the girders falling on him. And then I love that he kind of got up and did the classic moment of Jaws from one of the Roger Moore Bonds, where he gets kicked off a train and he just gets up and goes like that and he's fine. And that was kind of what he did. He was like, yeah, no big. But we also see, I think, how Norman's going to become the Green Goblin. I mean, in essence, I feel like, okay, that whatever was in that truck, take one Norm, add that, and you've got at least the strength of Green Goblin, if not the suit yet. So I feel like they kind of planted where it might go with Green Goblin. Also, by the way, what Brody brought up with the Scorpion, what's cool too, his scars, it almost then looks like the texture of a scorpion. So I think like that kind of design detail is really brilliant. And Scorpion never really did that much for me necessarily in the comics, but I found him, and I think Ivan put up in the chat, it's kind of the big bad of this season in some ways, which is kind of, somewhat true. And I think they've made him a really interesting, very powerful villain. He's genuinely scary. And the fact that they keep making it seem like he's been thwarted and he keeps coming back, I thought somehow that didn't get old. And every time it kind of surprised me a little bit. So hats off to pulling that off.
Yeah, I think that, there's some comments in the chat that the Scorpion is kind of a surprising big bad for this season. But I think, this is no longer titled Spider-Man freshman year, but this really is kind of very early on. We see him become Spider-Man, which we'll talk about when we recap episode 10 in a moment. And I think that this iteration of the Scorpion is kind of perfect for this, because we've dealt with some lower level street thugs, and then this is a high level street thug with a well-funded street thug. And I think that's important. I think the parallel that we get here is reminding us about Norman's comment last week that with great power comes great respect, and how Peter shouldn't be holding back. And we see what happens when he doesn't hold back. And it's very reminiscent of the scene in No Way Home when Peter also is about to kill the Green Goblin. and the other Spideys, make him realize that this isn't you. You don't want to, you can't go back from this. And Tombstone is a true friend. Lonnie, not even knowing that that's Peter, but he's a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So I thought that scene was great. I thought that they handled it perfectly, that he does learn the great responsibility part, even though neither Uncle Ben nor Norman Osborn actually said it to him. What do you think about sort of that moment, Brody, the realization that, oh yeah, I shouldn't hold back, but there are limits to what I should be doing.
Well, I thought it was important. I mean, he almost turned into U.S. agent, from the Falcon and Winter Soldier, where he kills the guy with the shield. And it reminded it, you know what? I didn't think of it until you said it. The Spider-Man No Way Home scene is beat for beat, what we saw.
Well, and I am very smart, Brody. So that's something.
And that's why I show up to these things, because I want to just feed
you want to learn
knowledge. Yeah. Oh, tell us, oh master, what, for me, it was like another example of Lonnie being a really good guy. And even though he's going to end up bad, and in a Clark Kent moment, I found it interesting that Peter Parker, wearing a mask, saying his name and acting like he knew Lonnie, you wouldn't recognize the voice or the mannerisms or the size. Hey, Lonnie. I mean, how many people are going to, hey, Lonnie?
Yeah.
You would like,
hello, citizen. Yeah, I know.
Yes, hello, sir. But it was just like, how does he not know?
Excuse me, Mr. Scorpion.
Hi. Hi, Lonnie. Hey, do you have my lunch money from yesterday? I mean, Peter's lunch money from yesterday. I mean, Peter even said his name was Peter to Doctor Strange in the last episode. He's like, oh, what's your name? Peter. Oh,
Spider-Man.
And I'm like, oh, now he's got to cast a spell and make everybody forget who he is. You blew it.
Exactly.
What did you think?
Well. What did you think of that kind of moment of realizing that, he's a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, not a murderous rage neighborhood Spider-Man, Eric?
Yeah, no, it definitely call back to the choices he makes in No Way Home. But it's also, I think, the choices. I've been watching this. I've been watching Daredevil, Invincible. So just been really sort of knee deep in superhero lore, or crap, as some might call it. But we wouldn't.
Lonnie could not stop Invincible in that moment.
No.
Yeah. No, Invincible is a little next level. But I think like that idea of when you have these abilities, how it can become almost like intoxicating. And also too, because he's seen what Scorpion can do. He also, again, goes back to the trauma. Like Scorpion almost killed him. If he doesn't sort of take Scorpion out fully, he could do it again. And so I think there's like a kind of a fight or flight, but really it's also, he's a survivor now of something that it's a near-death experience at a pretty young age. He's still a high school kid. So I think like that all really informs. It's a little bit different than No Way Home, when obviously he, what happened to Aunt May is on Peter's mind. But in this case here, it really is like, this guy's dangerous and he almost killed me. I think it kind of, it's a little bit more like it just comes out of a basic human or spider element to protect itself. Yeah. And they kept, Scorpion kept coming back. I mean, I think I'm impressed, because I thought it could get redundant and under lesser hands it would have. But here it's like every time it seemed like the scene was over, the fight was over, it kept going and changing, which again, really impressive to do with a set piece.
Yeah, if I was in charge, it would have been like the Energizer Bunny. It's like, okay, we get it. We know what's happening. In the chat, Ivan Soto said, is Lonnie basically Peter's Lex Luthor, best friends becoming arch enemies? But I would ask the same question. Is Harry Osborn Peter's Lex Luthor? Because they are also best friends. They will also become arch enemies if this show goes on long enough. I do wonder if this Harry's going to get hopped up on goofballs and have the drug problem that the comic book Harry Osborn had, but that's a little bit further down. A couple more points on this first episode, episode 9. We see the reconciliation between Peter and Nico, and no more secrets. And then she's like, oh boy, I sure do have a big secret myself, but they just tease that. But I do like the ominous ending of, all right, all of the other scientists here at Oscorp, how is our secret projects going? And especially Paul F. Tompkins, that guy. We knew that they were up to no good. And I thought that was a great ending that I think it's paid off fairly quickly in episode 10. Did either of you have any thoughts sort of on the way it ends with like, oh man, they are up to some wild stuff there at Oscorp?
The end of episode 9.
Episode 9, before we get to 10. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I think that's just that we knew, I don't know, when you see someone covers a car, like it has that shape, it's like, well, yeah, he's going to pull it off. It's going to be a nice looking car, I assume. So here it's like, we knew there was always that, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. It's like, well, yeah, we're paying attention and we know the man behind the curtain. So, double secret probation work they're doing makes its logical sense. It was just a matter of when, and then of course where it goes with it in episode 10 is pretty fun, and also smartly contained. Like, I found what I liked about it wasn't trying to do too much with their evil scheme.
Yeah.
Rather it's just a portal, and then of course that's all it takes to start bringing in some guys you don't want to move into your neighborhood.
Right, exactly. Yeah, there are definitely, I don't want to live in a neighborhood with venom-like creatures. Brody, you have any final thoughts on episode 9 before we move along to episode 10?
Yeah, despite the fact that our Dr. Conner seems to be using his right arm, the Dr. Conner in the show, I still think is a good person. I still get the impression that she's not the screaming scientist who yells at Peter. The other people that were sort of cloak and dagger, she seems like she's genuinely nice, which means she's got to be hit on the head at some point and forget who she is and then turn evil.
Well, Kirk Connors was usually a fairly even-keeled, good mentor to Peter. So I think that, yes, we're seeing sort of the early point. Now, the desperation of maybe trying to regrow that arm, infusing it with lizard DNA, I think is really something that we're all looking forward to. And I'm excited that episode 10 was, first of all, great, but it has the title, If This Be My Destiny, which is the title for the famous, legendary, classic Amazing Spider-Man 33, which is Peter buried underneath the rubble and coming to the realization of that's really, to a lot of people, when he finally becomes Spider-Man. And I know how Mr. Brody feels about Steve Ditko artwork, but this is still a fairly classic Spidey story and very absolutely legendary. So I loved when I saw that was the name of this episode. And this really is, in this series, this is when he becomes Spider-Man, and we've finally gotten him in the red and blue suit. And I'm glad that we got to spend time with him, both of these episodes with it. I'm glad that it wasn't at the end of episode 10. He's like, oh, and I've got a brand new outfit and you only see the foot and they want us to wait. So I'm glad that we weren't kept waiting too long when it comes to that. So, Eric, you already alluded to the fact that there are all of these, all this stuff going on at Oscorp, and the portal being kind of the impetus, the door that opens. And you grabbed an image of a moment that I really enjoyed, saying, "You're delusional. This isn't 21 Jump Street." And I thought it was interesting because we get Doctor Strange in here, not realizing he had met Peter. So, my initial thoughts are, okay, so that's a different reality, Doctor Strange. We quickly find that that's actually not the case, which I just think is interesting. I hear tell that time travel can be timey-wimey occasionally, and this would be one of those instances, I've been told. Some would say. Talk a little bit about this, though, Eric, especially because you shared this great moment. This isn't 21 Jump Street.
Right. And I like, too, he's alluding to the original high school-based show, not so much the reboot movie. So I felt, Doctor Strange is not a young man. Yeah, and it was a perfect way to bring him back. And I also, even the way they revealed it, they're really good at this throughout, visually and dramatically. Like, even I think I grabbed like the one of when the first time we see the symbiote, and it's just, you see I love that. You just see the eyes, the way we talked about Scorpion before. Like, you'll see like the outline, you'll see the tail. So they're perpetually using this kind of skill with like visual storytelling. It's like the art of the reveal. And so even when it starts and he's like, I haven't turned it on yet, and you realize that's Doctor Strange coming back. And Bertie, you were talking about this before, it circles back really smartly to the first episode. And it pays off really beautifully. But right, I love that he's met Doctor Strange, but Doctor Strange hasn't met him. Those moments are always fun. And I'm one of the few defenders of Tenet, which is all about that. And I know I stand alone on that hill in this room.
Well, the crazy thing is that the movie is the same backwards and forwards, and so is the title. So yeah, it's very clever. Yeah.
That's all you have to say. That's nice.
That was the movie. That was a movie that was going to save the film industry by getting people back to the movies when they reopened, and then it was that. But anyway, I know what you're saying.
Turned out it was poop, which is the same forward and backwards.
Speaking of poop, no. But Brody, your thoughts as we start to see what's happening with this portal, and it doesn't take long before it's like, hey, yeah, you should close that thing that's open there. Yeah, let's go ahead and close that down before those come out. The venom-like faces that are all lingering back there.
You have to love when a supervillain says, "What could go wrong?" Well, everything. That's why you're a supervillain.
We've thought of everything. What could possibly go wrong?
Right. What I found interesting was that they made Doctor Strange amazingly comic book accurate, the way Eric pointed out, to the point where I had forgotten that that's what he actually looks like, with the gloves and the design on his chest is so much more accurate than, as much as I love Cumberbatch is fantastic, but the thin mustache and it all was like so comic book. Yet they didn't comic book accurate Venom. They made sure to make it a symbiote, but not Venom, even though it's clearly Venom's species.
Yes.
And the full circle thing with the spider biting Peter was terrific. But I'm wondering, now that Peter lived it in the past at the high school, now watching it from another camera angle in life, watching Strange and the symbiote from the high school go into the hole, like he said to him, like, did you time travel? Right. He said to him. So it was interesting that he saw it happen from his perspective now. I'm like, wait, oh crap. That's what I saw at the high school. So I thought that was great that they let Peter have that experience of witnessing time travel where it all made sense to him.
It is an interesting. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish your thought, Brody. Sorry.
No, the only thing is that Doctor Strange was told he destroyed a high school. Yeah. Yet when he went back in time, he didn't say, "Oh, he wasn't like, oh crap, that's the high school. I got to get out." Like he said, "I got to get out of here," but he never gave away so much in the first episode that it gave away where they were going with it. It was all worded perfectly, which again, tip of the cap to the writers and the animators. Again, X-Men 97, love it, but this is just.
No, I've really enjoyed this. It's interesting because you do create that paradox of Peter gets bitten by an artificial spider that was created and infused with Peter's blood from after he got bitten by a infected spider. So it's like
Inception.
It's a Terminator paradox.
It's really the chicken and the egg both were born at the same time. So yeah, it's very interesting that is not where I saw that going. It just every indication, even when we see Strange at first in episode 10, it's like, oh, he doesn't know Peter. Okay, that was a different Strange, but
that's what I thought. I was like, multiverse.
Yeah. Within the end of that half hour, though, we kind of had it all kind of buttoned up and figured out. What do we think about the idea that they're seeing just what they can do with Peter's spider blood and get an army of Spider-Men? I would quote Norman Osborn here, Eric, and say, what could go wrong?
Right. Well, and they also even have that line of like, I wish I had 100 of you. Is something he actually puts out there. It's like, okay, welcome to season 2.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Well, also, actually, one thing I wanted to run by you guys. So obviously a little piece of the symbiote stuck around. For a moment there, I'm like, is Norman going to become Venom? Like, I don't know if that's too much of a shift. Like, and then poor Eddie Brock's out there. wondering like if they're going to do that 2010s show so he can be in that instead. Like, in essence, when is this going to pay off? Well, yeah, next season. Do you think they would do such a drastic reboot of Venom and make it a Venom Norman Osborn kind of hybrid?
I mean, I think that Norman will absolutely in some way be infused with the symbiote. I mean, there's a chance that he uses it and, he has somebody else do it, but I do think he'll still be the Green Goblin. I don't think he'll actually be Venom, but I think it will be a much more sinister, not Nathaniel Essex, not Mr. Sinister. That's a different guy entirely, but a sinister version of the Green Goblin. What do you think, Brody?
Well, again, it depends on how fast they move the timeline along as far as the Green Goblin goes. But is it possible Harry becomes Venom?
Yeah.
Since he's already on the show, maybe he becomes Venom to stop his father, and then the symbiote takes him over, and he doesn't realize he's lost control to the symbiote. The way they change things on the show slightly, I feel like yes, Norman could become Venom, but we've already seen the glider.
Yes,
and I don't think Venom would use the glider, so I think he's the Green Goblin. But I think Harry being Venom, or the annoying redheaded scientist being Venom, like I think somebody else who we've already seen might become Venom rather than Eddie Brock. I think that's a definite possibility.
But Amadeus seems like
I was just about to say, the perfect. Yeah, I mean,
because he would do it in a second. It's like, side effects may include. Oh, that doesn't matter.
Don't even tell me. Yeah,
right.
There's. Are they going to follow his trajectory with the Runaways, or are we going to go there? And that's what I do like about these shows. And even X-Men '97 did it to an extent. You're like, that there is a wealth of possibilities for ways it can go. And is it going to go any one of them? No, probably it's going to go a few different ways. They're going to incorporate and pick and choose things and, make what I think will really be an interesting story. And I'm glad that, everybody gets it all figured out. Everything gets saved right up until the point of just a little tiny bit of Venom squeezes out. I like that. It's like, we almost did it. Got it all. Again, what's the worst that can happen with just a little bit of Venom? And,
a dingle Venom.
Yes, exactly. So
that visual I'm here for.
Harry goes on to create the Worldwide Engineering Brigade, WEB, to support the young geniuses like our Oscorp interns. And we do need to talk about the end sequence, which actually went on longer than I thought. We saw a lot more than I expected to. We see Nico finally uses that medallion, and she says hi to her mom, and that is opening Runaways can of worms. At the very least, it'll be Nico's story, and we do get to see old Hornhead again. We get to see Daredevil again. And they say sarcasm isn't a superpower. And there was indeed a lot of the speculation that Jeanie, I don't know, it's spelled in that weird way. It's not spelled like Jean Grey, but that she was Finesse. And he not only calls her Finesse, she puts the mask on. So we see that she's working with Daredevil. So that really opens the door for a lot more to do with Daredevil in season 2. And Nico in season 2, WEB Webb in season 2. And we did already talk about the announcement on Spider-Gwen and Gwen Stacy, and our chat wondering, are we going to get Gwen as in Gwen Stacy and also Ghost Spider as a separate character? I would say no. I would think that they'd be the same. But again, they can zig and zag, not zig or zag. So I am excited. I know that they're working on season 2 for this. I don't know how far off we are from it, but they go ahead and do a weekly release. We were talking about that before you popped in, Eric, that a weekly release schedule would be welcome for season 2 of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah, still don't quite understand. I'm sure you guys were chatting about this before, and we
had like a half hour.
Yeah. I just kept tapping my watch like this, and I'm like, all right, I guess we'll talk about the release schedule.
Yeah, that's not stretching at all.
Yeah.
No, because it's good. And again, remember we were, a little bit once bitten, twice shy with Echo, where it's like, oh, geez, they just gave us all of it. And
Yeah.
it's just, all right, let's just drop it. It's fine. Like back in the day when a show would get canceled and they would do like a special like 2-3 episode run one day in the middle of the summer.
The like 4 final episodes of the Fox Arrested Development all got burned off against like the Olympics opening ceremony.
Yeah.
They did a 2-hour block, and I'm like, yeah, if you really want to watch it, go ahead. Here it is.
But don't play. We warned you.
Yeah.
Right. We wanted you to watch something else. I'm not sure. Again, the logic, maybe it is just to clear the runway for Daredevil.
Yeah.
But it's these were good, and they all the storytelling was smart. They ended every episode with a little bit of a mini cliffhanger. And so I think it would benefit from giving it a little bit of breathing room. But then again, it was also kind of fun to be able to sit down and watch 3 episodes in a row. That's it's sort of like a mini binge as opposed to a massive binge.
Right. No, I agree. And again, it's fun. We do have a lot to look forward to in terms of season 2. And Daniel Drew does mention it was nice to see Awatu, the Watcher, at the end. I thought that was great. And yes, Ivan agrees that seeing the Watcher, I like that. And the Watcher can continue to watch over everything, all the animated shows. If he doesn't talk, that's fine. But as long as we don't get more episodes like season 3 of What If, I think it'll be fine that we continue.
What if Spider-Man played checkers instead of chess?
I like it. All right, let's talk about the pieces. Instead of red and black, they're red and blue because he's Spider-Man.
Instead of red and blue, what if it's blue and red?
What if?
It asks the questions, what if?
What?
And Kame Egan, that is 10 demerits. I'm late to the game, but did enjoy Spider-Man. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Oh, the Eric Conner of the chat.
What would Husey say about that, Cammy?
I don't know that we can say. Yeah, and nor do I think that we should. So in any case,
I make a Daredevil observation?
Please do.
In the MCU, we lost Captain America and we lost Iron Man, and we saw both of them in Spider-Man. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. They both made appearances, right? Seeing Iron Man was like, oh, there's Iron Man. Okay, he caught Octopus. Okay, great. Captain America, oh, it's Captain America. But ever since the Netflix show, Daredevil is the shit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I mean, Daredevil on Netflix was fantastic. A mere appearance by Matt Murdock in Spider-Man, we went ballistic. He caught the brick. Oh my God, it's Matt. He made She-Hulk. I mean, he was the greatest thing in She-Hulk. And you guys both said that the best thing about this show was his fight with Daredevil.
Yeah, I agree.
And I was going to say that until the time travel loop, that Daredevil was my favorite part. And then just seeing him at the end and knowing he's going to be back next season, you're like, yes, Daredevil. I think Daredevil has seen a huge resurgence in the Marvel world, where he's like top tier now, where he was always like, I would say second tier, not quite, Captain America and Fantastic Four and the Avengers. So I was like, oh, Daredevil's a fun comic. Oh, Frank Miller's writing it. We'll collect Daredevil. But he was never like Spider-Man level. But in the media right now, in Marvel projects, Daredevil is really becoming a favorite. And I really am looking forward to seeing how the MCU uses him.
I would say that he is one of the characters that most benefited from recent adaptations. Fundamentally, you can't ignore the Guardians of the Galaxy going from what they were to becoming huge and being these beloved characters. But I mean, pre Frank Miller, Daredevil was, I believe, a bi-monthly book, which means you got 6 issues a year, and it was on the verge of cancellation. So you have that legendary run, and you have him return in the mid 80s for the Born Again storyline, which is our March entry in the Geekscape Book Club, which we will talk more about as it gets closer. But I think it's great how much everybody loves Daredevil, and Charlie Cox doing the voice of Daredevil in this, however more they had to pay him for this than a sound-alike actor. It's money well spent because it's so much goodwill, and it also might just be promotion for his series coming up. So maybe he just gets the league minimum, as they say.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this, Eric?
Well, it's such a good point, and I know we may or may not be talking about some of these things when we talk about Captain America in a few minutes. But like, so Black Panther shows up in this Captain America comic that we all read, and you realizing like Chadwick Boseman was so good; it was such a perfect marriage of character and role.
Yeah.
And the idea too of like, okay, Iron Man being the center of the MCU, well, it was really, it's a two-headed thing. It's Iron Man and Captain America were sort of the center of the MCU. And now they're both seemingly gone, although they're coming back in different varieties. And so I think it's a great pitch. I think it could be Charlie Cox and Tom Holland. Or maybe you put a little Strange in the mix too, which I know is Christian's how Christian lives his life. And so we basically like have a perfect marriage of character and actor. And I think like, yeah, Charlie Cox, I mean, again, maybe it's because I've been binging so much Daredevil that I'm just like, holy crap, this guy's really good. And, Tom Holland, I think people like, he immediately became beloved, with like one scene in Civil War before he even was Spider-Man, when he was just Peter Parker coming home listening to Alt J, he already like won us all over. So I feel like, something about the two of them really, if they want these next two Avengers movies to really pop, I think you got to work them into the center of the picture, because that is where right now the audience love, I think, is very much entrenched.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think there's so much excitement for this, and it is a universally beloved show, and there's so much excitement for it coming back. And I, for one, am excited. And we did mention earlier in the show that our Daredevil Born Again episodes 1 and 2, it is a 2-episode premiere. Our coverage will begin Wednesday, March 5th at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, right here on Geekscape. So please tune in for that. This will be it for Marvel Movie Talk. And I want to make sure to give everybody the opportunity to promote their wares. Mr. Brody, where can people find you?
Find me at the Brooklyn Boys podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And you can find me writing for Wacky Packages for the good folks over at Tops. I think we have a new set coming out in April, so I'll tease you again as we get closer.
Excellent. And Mr. Conner, where will we find you?
I'm hopping around different parts of the Geekscape multiverse, so you can find me there, including What Won This Week, a newer podcast from Mr. Kelly, featuring the great Katie Hampton and the OK Me. And I also, if you're local, I'll plug something local. In Burbank, we're doing, through the Cultural Arts Commission, a special event for marketing. If you work as a creative or you have a group and you're trying to market on a real low budget, come on by. It's a free event. We'll even feed you a little bit, not too much, just enough.
Just some snacks.
Eric Conner.
Yeah.
Come follow me.
We appreciate that. Cam Egan says the special looks Marvel's putting out for Daredevil have been gritty, fight-filled, and exciting. None of the spots have shown Karen or Foggy, so I'm wondering how much we're going to see them. It's a great point. I don't know how much they need to factor in terms of some of that promotion, but yes, it is a little concerning. We will begin to have our questions answered on March the 5th. We'll be doing one more Captain America special. So that'll be the next episode of Marvel Movie Talk. Katie has a full plate of too much podcasting today, including that. And so she did get mixed up. And I think I have to stop putting Eastern time in all of our emails. So Brody, you're the only one that needs that. So you're going to just have to add 3. So
damn it.
I know. I look.
You know how hard that is for someone from Brooklyn?
So
first of all, it's tree, not 3. It's tree.
Thank you. Tree
1, 2, tree.
2 tree hours. Yeah. We appreciate
I'll throw you through a window 3 times.
A tree grows in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
it's actually the
exactly.
number. That's actually, most people don't know that. It's a book about a number.
Right, exactly. Thank you, everybody. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. I just say social media at Christian DMZ, and my personal podcast, The Blackcast. I've been doing some fun conversations this past week, which you can find. The first part on Geekscape, been talking about the Saturday Night Live 50th anniversary special and just the show in general with some of my former NBC Page friends. So one of those is out now. There'll be another one that you'll be able to check out over the weekend. And don't forget to check out What Won the Week at 1 p.m. Pacific. I don't know what that is Eastern because I can't add tree. So that is everything you need to know for Marvel Movie Talk. And that is all the time for Marvel Movie Talk. As the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior! And now we can say welcome to the Geekscape Book Club. I'm Christian Bladt, and joined by Eric Conner and David Brody, speaking about Captain America, and not just any Captain America, who we know Captain America throws his mighty shield. Oh my gosh. Did you steal that from our friend Jeff Williams? I forget that you have that as well, Eric, that you have your own shield. And
my son's bar mitzvah, we bought 2 of these, one to leave untouched as production value, and the other one was signed by his friends who were at the event.
Nice. Yeah.
So,
well, just
a good cause.
Just like this book starts off with 2 Captain Americas. Here on the Geekscape Book Club, we're talking about Captain America, Symbol of Truth. One of the newer books that we've done. I think that the Penguin book we did last week is actually even a little newer than this. This is, I think, 2022. So we're talking about that book, issues 0 through 5. I'm of the age that I remember that the first issue of a comic book was number 1. Now, that's crazy talk, I guess, because you need a number 0. But to be fair, it kind of feels like a number 0 because Steve Rogers is in that one, and he's not there at any other time. Brody, I always like to see what you think, because these are newer books that none of us had read. And, you seemingly only read new stuff for this show. So I'm kind of wondering, we'll dive in, we'll get us into some specifics, but what is your overall first thought as you dive into issues 0 through 5 of Captain America, Symbol of Truth?
Well, first of all, the Brooklyn Boys podcast that I'm on starts with episode 0. So
perfect.
I was very happy to see this. It was interesting for me, as someone, again, who doesn't read a lot of current comic books, to see Sam's Captain America right after watching the movie, and seeing for me, seeing Deadpool in a comic book for the first time since the movies came out. I was reading Daredevil. I was reading Deadpool as Ryan Reynolds, as opposed to Deadpool, the character in the comics. And I was looking at Dr. Doom as,
Robert Downey Jr.
Right? Yeah. Robert Downey Jr. So for me, Sam Wilson in the comic I was trying to compare it to the movie I had just seen. That being said, I thought the artwork was great. I thought Falcon looked a lot better in the comics than he did in the movie.
That's
having the classic Falcon feather wings. It was great seeing Black Panther. So I enjoyed that's it. There you go. I enjoyed the visual aspect of the comics. We can talk about more into the plot, but in my initial thoughts were, oh, this is interesting. And the fact that it was 2 Caps, and the way they joke about what that whole scene about, do you want to be uncanny Cap or amazing, like using the other Marvel adjectives, I thought was great. So I enjoyed it. I did, but I came at it a different view, because for me, I was a moviegoer reading the comic.
Right. And what I do love is that a lot of the newer Marvel comic book content does have a cinematic feel to it. And it does seem that it's easily accessible for where the movies are at that point or where they're going. I mean, there's an X-Men series in the early 2000s where they wear the black leather, So, I mean, it's you definitely are trying to bring people under the tent. We want people to read these books. So, however it works. But one of the things that I enjoy the most when we read these newer comics is that it's still interconnected in the Marvel universe, the actual 616, the Marvel comic book universe. So we have Black Panther. We have Misty Knight, who I can always take more Misty Knight in my storytelling. She didn't even do any Misty Knight stuff in this. She's just kind of hanging out with Sam, at least not in this volume. And of course, Deadpool is always fun. The thing that I like most about Deadpool in the comics is that he very often does break the fourth wall, and everyone just brushes it off like, yeah, you always knew more about that stuff. They just, but so we didn't get that. But I thought it was great to get all those characters populating the story, which, it feels like it's in line with where we've seen the Sam Wilson character in both Falcon and Winter Soldier and also in Brave New World. Eric Conner, your thoughts on issues 0 through 5?
0 through 5. Well, and agree that 0 is, I think it's smart not to call it issue 1 because it's such a separate story. So it kind of like lives off in its own little corner. But I thought this was a great series. And it really, I think what it did that I don't feel Falcon and Winter Soldier did, and I don't feel the new Captain America movie did, was it dealt with things that are very much of the right now, and in a way that felt like they turned into the skid. They weren't afraid to make this thing about things like immigration, deportation, identity, like the racial identity. Like I think there was just so much going on in this, and I found maybe some of the threads of the plots could have been a little bit cleaner put together, but it was kind of like a small nitpick compared to what really impressed me here. Although I still keep waiting for the day when this costume will show up somewhere again.
Yes.
The classic red and white bare
open shirt.
chest. Yeah, exactly. That's like the classic like Luke Cage. The yellow with the headband. Yeah, I agree.
No, I mean, listen, he's got a good body. He can show it off. He doesn't have to hide it. Yeah. It's not like I'm playing the character or something.
Bring on the deep V.
Yeah, right.
I said that throughout my teens, but what was your point that you were going to make?
Do the drapes match the wings? So I basically found this to be such a really beautifully designed too. I think we were talking about this. I have to admit, I'll disagree with my beloved Brooklyn colleague here. The look of Falcon to me, old school Falcon, not not Captain America Falcon, but regular Falcon.
Sure.
I find it sometimes looks a little bit drippy, but I do think the character was great. I loved how personal it became for him, and there's some really great moments, great panels of him just like, fighting for his family basically. But I think this thing is just a real work of art. I mean, one of the better titles I think we've read in this book club. So Christian, thank you for bringing this into my diet.
Yeah, no, and the writer is Tochi Oniubuchi. I'm sure I said that perfectly. And the art provided by R.B. Silva, who people know from the recent Inferno, which is something that we covered here, Powers of X and some Fantastic Four. And, the writer, whose name I'll try to avoid saying as often as possible because I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, but had worked on Black Panther before. So I think it was great that we got to see him and sort of this fascinating idea that's not something that I was familiar with, but this idea of really Americans of African descent emigrating to Wakanda. And why wouldn't you? I mean, just that kingdom seems to have everything and sort of dealing with the politics. I'm not quite sure why Shuri's prime minister and T'Challa is just kind of hanging out as Black Panther, but that's the beauty of, kind of getting airdropped into a book like this. You didn't really need to know. I was interested, but I thought that it fits really well into this Brave New World aspect. I know not the literal film title, but this dealing with the geopolitics of this Brave New World and dealing with some of these characters that we're familiar with on the screen. But yeah, I thought that just artistically, I thought the story was fun. And Eric, I know that you isolated Arnim Zola.
I love him. I just think it's such a, in some ways, like a silly character. It's got a bit of a MODOK to it, but
definitely a bit of a MODOK, yeah.
But I also just always the visual of, I don't know, a very large head.
Yeah,
will always put a smile on my very large head's face because I feel seen, right? I feel like, oh yeah, that could be me. And I still, even to this day, will defend how MODOK looked in Quantumania. I thought he was supposed to look ridiculous, and
that's fair. Yeah,
yes, it was well done. No, but here I thought it was kind of fun, and it of course, like, give my regards to Hitler. It's like, well, that's an interesting Arnold Schwarzenegger-esque line.
Give my regards to Hitler.
You tell him hello for me in hell, because he'll be dead as well.
It's just a Roman salute. By the way, Christian, go ahead and show it.
What am I showing?
The screenshot that Eric took of the giant pink penis rocket. Go ahead.
I'm not sure that I know what he's talking about. I'm sorry.
Oh, Eric, you didn't send a screenshot of the Baron's.
That was
Baron's
personal. I just
penis
sent
rocket. Oh,
I sent
just
that
to me.
you, and that wasn't a rocket.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it was.
Oh,
it's a little
my bad.
now.
Yeah, but that artistic interpretation aside, I mean, our visual audience is seeing just that's literally beautiful artwork, and we have had selections here on the Geekscape Book Club where the stories are very good, and then the art can go between inconsistent to just downright bad sometimes. They're, especially when they don't have the same artist for the whole series. The Doctor Strange story we did, I thought was great, but there were issues where it was like, ooh. So I think that I don't know how popular this series was. It came highly recommended on one of those lists of stuff you could read before before Captain America: Brave New World, and I did enjoy that in issue 0 we did get to see some Steve Rogers. I'm not quite sure why there's two Captains America. It wouldn't be Captain America's, right?
No, that's Attorneys General you're thinking.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I'm going to say two captains and leave it at that.
Captain, my captain. Makes sense.
I was glad to.
Well, that's
go ahead.
No, that's the famous Captain America shot from the opening trailer of every Marvel movie.
Oh, right.
Him throwing the shield, which I thought that was, I guess, a tribute to that angle. It was nice to see Cap again. Yeah, having two Caps was kind of unusual. Maybe one of them could be a Major America, get him promoted as the senior
Private
officer.
First Class America.
Yeah, General America. At this point, the guy's been around 80 years. Make him promote him from captain.
Yeah, right, exactly. But it's and again, that's one of those things that I just worried and that I just wondered about. And this was what Eric was talking about earlier. The shout out, to you admire Hitler, go meet him. That's some rough and tumble Steve Rogers there, which I thought. Let's talk about some of the other characters because Eric, you sent this to me. I thought this was Domingo from the Saturday Night Live sketch, but this is also like Mr. Rourke meets Tony Stark. Some of these characters that we've gotten in here. What did you think sort of about the supporting cast throughout this story?
Well, this is White Wolf, aka Hatut Zeraze.
Thank you.
And he's
Hakuna Matata.
Yeah, right. And I believe that is not Caucasian skin, I believe. And I was like, okay, I'm a little confused by this character. So I did a little bit of a deep dive. And I don't know if you guys knew White Wolf. Like, if you were familiar with this.
I wasn't familiar. No, it's one of those names of a character where I'm like, oh, I think I've heard of that, but you haven't necessarily heard of it before.
Yeah, he's basically, I mean, it's almost like a Shakespearean character. His parents died while flying over Wakanda. He survived, and so he was raised in Wakanda, and in essence raised like a brother to the Black Panther.
So to T'Challa.
To T'Challa, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And we only get sort of bits and pieces of him. I feel like in this version, we get a lot more crossbones and whatnot. But I think like they're setting him up, and again, I love that outfit so much. That he does have a kind of a bit of like an African flair to his costume, but he's also very much feels very European, very Caucasian. So even the design of him, I thought was an interesting choice. His plan of how to use Wakanda, is almost like his vengeance against the entire nation. And the thing that has put them on the map, that has made them so powerful and so advanced, is a thing that would kill people. I thought that was kind of an interesting turn. Again, I thought they could have maybe tied it a little bit better together, paid it off a little bit more. But I thought as a scheme goes, that one was pretty killer, and one that worked really in a very interesting way with the themes that they were exploring too.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed all of this. I welcomed all of it. A lot of it was new to me. And I believe that you were not familiar with the White Wolf either, Mr. Brody. But what did you think, sort of, especially now, getting this background on the character from Eric?
Well, I had never heard of him before, and I just learned his origin story from Eric. So I'm glad I tuned into this episode of the Marvel Book Club. I mean, of course, he's the evil stepbrother.
Sure.
That's got to be. I did find major holes in the Wakanda security system.
Yeah.
Where Crossbones gets in, and then Sam hops on an immigration plane, and there's no facial recognition software. He just comes on board
for one of the most famous, recognizable humans on the planet.
Right.
Yeah, they don't seem to notice him. And then Crossbones, who is a great character, apparently his kryptonite is birds.
Yeah,
I'll never talk. All right, get the birds away from me. Here's the plot.
Well, he is the Falcon.
Yeah, but you Crossbones, a couple of birds, and you give up the plot. I'll never tell you I'm never gonna give you the evil. He does the meta thing and says, I'm not going to give you the evil speech where I tell you
right.
I
did like that.
A bird. Okay, here's the plan.
Yeah, it's a few birds. I mean, in his defense, it was like 5 of them.
It's like a Hitchcock film.
No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die, but first let me tell you about how you're going to die and what I'm going to do as soon as you do. Yeah, it was definitely that sort of that self-awareness and then kind of going there. Eric and I have been showing off our Happy Meals. Mine doesn't cooperate, or Happy Meal toys. My Falcon does not play nicely with my green screen. But we get a lot of Falcon in this series, in this story, and Captain America: Symbol of Truth, episode 0 through 5, and I think that it's very indicative of like their plans for this character going forward in the films. This is very consistent with how we see him in Captain America: Brave New World. And I think I enjoyed this character. I enjoyed Joaquin Torres in the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. So I'm perfectly happy with this iteration of Falcon. And this was definitely one of those where you're reading the comic that comes before the movie and you're like, oh yeah, they read this. And they were like, yep, that. And then they just did a drag and drop and put it right into their final draft screenwriting program. What did you think of Falcon in this? Not Sam Wilson, who's Captain America, but Falcon. Brody. I know. I realized I didn't say it. I was so focused on my puppet show that I forgot.
Hanging out of my pocket now.
I enjoyed Falcon more in this than in the movie. In our recap of Brave New World, I mentioned I thought he was a bit obnoxious. He was a bit like a 14-year-old boy, like a young Spider-Man rather than an adult, because he was so new to it. I enjoyed this Falcon more. I thought he was more of a partner as opposed to a unnecessary Robin sidekick kind of thing. Help me out on a plot point though, if I might ask for help. They poisoned all of these immigrants who would die or explode, whatever it was that they were going to do once they got in touch with vibranium.
Yeah.
And once Cap learns of the plot, he then says, "I saved everyone."
Yeah.
But he didn't really save anybody.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything.
They just didn't let anyone come into the country. So
right. Well, but they still could be exposed to vibranium. They didn't do it. They didn't really stop anybody. There's a million people living there already. So I don't.
It's mission accomplished for Sam Wilson, border czar. He kept everyone from coming into the country.
Yeah.
He's like, whoa, hold on. Yeah.
Yeah. He put up the mission accomplished banner a little too soon.
Basically, what he did is he's like, I saved you, but never touch vibranium. And look, that's not that easy to do. Most people aren't going to come into contact.
If you see Black Panther, run away.
Yeah. Right.
Which is kind of a weird message to your point, right? It's like, well, so you're saying then these people whose bloodline comes from Wakanda or from Africa, they shouldn't go back? Like I felt that was where the story, I think, lost its grip. Was it didn't pay off as well as it set up. And the setup was great, and some of the twists and turns along the way were great. But I completely agree. I thought that payoff was like a real soft landing after really interesting, a lot of interesting things they were setting up for these 5+ issues.
And they really made Shuri look like an idiot. No, they really made Shuri look like an idiot. You know, and even when Black Panther said, like, it's not what I would have done, it's like, yeah, I'm with him.
It's going to be a real contemporary reference for our younger audience, but this Shuri really gave me D from What's Happening vibes. She's the annoying little sister who's smarter than he should be, but
I'm going to tell Mama.
Yeah, exactly. But just Daniel made a point that White Wolf was the nickname for Bucky in the MCU while he was in Wakanda. That's a great point. I actually did forget that, and he's off to chess class, but appreciate that. That's actually, I meant to bring up Cami Egan, who did not have an opportunity to read these, but it gives some homework for the weekend. I'll tell you. If you get it on Amazon now for Kindle or your laptop, it's actually on sale. It's like 80% off this series. So it's a great time to read it. I think that there are some deals on Captain America content tied into the movie. This is a bit of an inside reference from King of All Diffs, referring to me as Chris and Eric Conner as Vinnie Paulino, and unfortunately David Brody as comedian. Why am I forgetting Tom's last name?
Tom Segura?
No. Tom versus the rest of the world from WATP. It's embarrassing because I had it in my head. This is what happens when you're
Eaton.
No. But anyway, it's an inside reference that I appreciate.
Tom Papa.
No, all of those would be great.
No,
you would want all of those, but
I'm not feeling a compliment there, King of all diffs. There's no compliment there.
No.
Any of us really.
There is absolutely not. Tom Myers versus the rest of the world. That is one of the worst stand-up comedians. Working today.
Oh, well, thanks for nothing there.
Yeah, well, you do look like him, unfortunately, but I'm sure you're much funnier than Bong Hit Transplant. And King of All This is very embarrassing that I couldn't remember Tom Myers' name, but I felt like it was part of my healing that I didn't have. But we do have some imagery here that Eric shared with us. I think we all agreed. Eric, you didn't necessarily comment on it so much. So talk about getting to have Deadpool in the sandbox with us here.
It was a fun little excursion. I thought they used him better than they used Doom. I'm not sure. Doom showed up for just, I don't know, show off his new fur line jacket hood. But beyond that, I'm not exactly sure what he added. But Deadpool is the perfect sort of day player character for Marvel. Like, he could just pop in whenever, whatever. And I did, anytime you reference colon, that's a win for me.
Yeah. Yeah, the knife in my colon hurts the most also explains the stinking.
Smell.
So you could, and then so Cap talks and he's like, Cap, my colon. So I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Deadpool is very consistent with the comic book portrayal, and I'm always happy to see him. And this is sort of referencing what we had earlier. I'm Captain America, but I'm just going to go ahead and waltz into Wakanda in my street.
The T-shirt. I mean, right? Like when I wear my T-shirt that has 4 on it, you can't recognize me. It's a very similar thing.
We're going to do an episode. We'll probably do a number of episodes this summer about Fantastic Four First Steps. When I wear my Fantastic Four shirt, you guys will have no idea who's filling in and guest hosting that episode.
Well, did you guys ever see that great documentary about Muhammad Ali, When We Were Kings?
Yes.
And in this whole section reminded me a lot of that part when he first gets to Africa and he's like shocked that the pilots are black. And that he gets there and he's celebrated and he, to be in a place for the first time in his life where he's doesn't just always kind of have to look over his shoulder. And so this whole it was a series of panels of him getting there and he's almost confused by the beauty of it. I found that actually pretty moving, and it totally reminded me of that docs.
Which a documentary that'll make you rethink your purchase of the Foreman grill because good Lord, George Foreman's dick in that. But they hate him, and it's really it's kind of like
he was the villain, right? Yeah. I mean, you need a hero and a villain in fights, and
is this going to be the day where I mention Hollywood Hogan twice? No, it's not.
I hope so.
No. I guess I just did. I appreciated seeing these characters. Misty Knight is somebody who, look, I loved the Netflix extended universe, the Defenders universe, all of these characters that we were starting to get. Misty Knight, Colleen Wing in particular, I forgot
to send this to you.
That was a variant cover.
Yeah,
That's great.
Misty Knight is very cool in this, even though she's just a cool lady with a metal arm. But yeah, it's a great character.
Yeah, and I thought that it was great to see her. And Brody, Misty Knight was kind of adjacent to the X-Men universe during the Byrne era, mostly because Byrne and Claremont had worked on Iron Fist together, so there would be some crossover. We would see Misty Knight sometimes, we'd see Colleen Wing sometimes, but even from the TV series, you had to have familiarity with the character, right?
Oh yeah, well I knew her from the Power Man and Iron Fist comics from back in the day, and of course from the Defenders series. I had forgot because when I read about her, she had both arms. So for me, my first experience with her losing an arm was on the TV show. And I don't remember which book club it was. We were talking about I guess Avengers, and an old Avengers issue where it was her first appearance. She was a woman who got mugged on the street.
Oh yeah,
we talked about that.
That's right.
They went and retconned the woman of color who got mugged and said, "Oh, that was Misty Knight," even though it wasn't really Misty Knight when it happened.
No, because they're like, "Look, there's only one that it could have been."
Right? Remember that woman with the afro who got mugged 3 years ago? Yeah, that's Misty Knight.
No,
that's her.
That was not Shirley Hemphill.
Another reference.
I know.
Let me take the lenses out of my glasses and be Roger for a moment.
Because Raj, I'm telling Mama. Probably because
I wouldn't go in there if I were you, but you probably will go in there because you're stupid.
Gentlemen, I have an important question. Which doobie you be?
That's right.
I did an episode of my podcast, The Blackcast, about very special episodes to try to teach lessons with my friend Ramada, and he insisted we do the Doobie Brothers 2-part What's Happening, where the different strokes. Bicycle Man is very well intentioned, doesn't necessarily hold up for the entire hour. But the idea that it was like, we're going to teach a lesson about bootlegging at concerts was a little bit misguided, but good God, there's so much Doobie Brothers footage in that. But I don't think
listen,
go ahead.
In the words of William Shakespeare, no Roger, no rerun, no rent.
Turkey. When I was a camp counselor, Brody, I taught my kids to chant that. They had no idea why. I wasn't a camp counselor in 1976, but it became our war cry. No Roger, no rerun,
I feel like it should become a TikTok trend. Just people doing Yeah, no Roger, no rerun.
I do love Cami Egan's hey. Oh no, I did the thumbs up. Oh, I gotta change that setting. This is still a relatively new computer for me. Can I make the I can't make the fireworks
the
go
balloons.
off.
Can't do the
I don't know. But anyway.
peace signs.
So we did talk a little bit about this, and when I was reading Doom, of course, I wasn't thinking of Robert Downey Jr. I was thinking about the great Joseph Culp, who Eric and I were fortunate enough to interview in studio at one point last year to talk about the still greatest Fantastic Four movie, the Roger Corman produced Fantastic Four. So that's hashtag my Doom. At least probably
Real Doom.
Yeah. Hashtag
real Doom.
Real Doom.
Doesn't he look sort of lizardy here?
You know, that's a great point. He does actually. Yeah.
I was going to say, and what if the lizard borrowed the vulture's jacket?
Yeah. You're not wrong. That is.
He's got Craven's. He's got Craven's fur on him too. Look at that.
Yeah, and I don't know. I feel like I've seen sort of that like medallions, like the holding on the fur coat. I'm not quite sure, who that is, but I feel like it's one of the Eternals or maybe Squadron Supreme. It's somebody like that.
Hyperion.
Yeah,
Gorgeous,
right,
gorgeous.
exactly. So and this is the second time that Doom has popped up in a story involving Black Panther. We haven't done a really good Doom story, I don't think, and I would like to in the future. We've got the Geekscape Book Club mapped out through September, but I'm sure we'll be able to find the time in there. And Eric, I know that you sent me a couple of emails of some images. So I want to make sure to get to those, but I do think that this holds up really well. Sort of the visuals here. This is sort of what you're talking about: Sam walking around Wakanda and really, experiencing it for the first time, right?
Oh, no, actually, this scene I think is when he's still in America.
Oh, okay.
When they're trying to get people to basically leave America, go to Wakanda, where we're welcome, where we're treated, like first class citizens, and. Again, I mean, this was written before, current administration, but it was incredibly timely.
You're talking about Thaddeus Ross, the president of the United States.
He lost the mustache, but won the election.
Spoiler: former president.
Yeah, right.
Hey! Yeah, that's fine. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Hey, you could be a convict and still be in the White House. History has taught us that.
I don't see any way that that's possible, but sure.
No.
Okay. Yeah. It's
Greg,
crazy talk from you.
But here, like, this all felt like it could have been written, honestly, like this week.
Yeah.
And I think that's what was really impressive. And again, something I know I fetched about, a couple years back when we watched Falcon and Winter Soldier, was it didn't really go there. Like it sort of was on the edge of things, and maybe Brave New World went a little more towards it. But even then, I felt like kind of always sort of pulled its punches a little. These issues, especially the early ones, I feel like they did not pull their punches. And it was very much of the time, of the place. And it kind of really went, it dove deep into what it means to live in America in the 2020s. So I thought it was very powerful writing. And it makes me want to read more of this author's work, even beyond comic books, because I'm curious what they have to say about other things beyond just using superheroes to tell the stories.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I am intrigued in the Black Panther run also, so I would like to see some of that. But at the end of the day, it is just it's clearly a fantasy world because in this series, the Chicago White Sox are scoring a run. So that, and I have to apologize to Cam Egan. I'm sorry to rag on your Southsiders right at spring training's beginning, but it did make me laugh that you sent this to me.
Oh, yeah. The only frame. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brody.
No, Eric, go ahead.
I was just saying the only part of this whole issue I didn't believe.
Yes, exactly. And I thought that that was fun. And again, we're just getting some of these beautiful visuals. Falcon and his cousin. I thought it was an interesting choice that it was cousin. They must have established before this that he didn't have a sister, and I'm sure people are very close with their cousins, but it almost felt like, all right, this is this is a very close relationship. And I feel like that'll factor in more But you did choose an interesting panel here, Eric. So for our visual audience, why don't you talk a little bit about this?
That is a fry seeped in possibly cheese, maybe even a mustard-based gravy.
Yes.
But this I thought Brody would appreciate, and it feels like this is maybe a kind of fry you could get at a Nathan's, and maybe very hungry. And it was also like, why is there's this close up of this, And I'm like, well, it's there are no accidents.
The lobbies really control a lot of the content we consume, and I believe that this is a result of Big Disco Fry, and the Disco Fry lobby is very much involved. I know that's more of a Jersey term for it.
Does Mondelez have some writing credits in this?
So again, we have I'm intrigued by the Falcon. Sorry, by Captain America's usage of actual Falcons in this series. By the way, because I was like, man, I don't really remember that, but that was a thing, I guess.
Right?
I knew that there was the one that he would have like on his arm. There's that period in time where the book was called Captain America and Falcon and Daredevil and Black Widow. It was like they changed the titles of these books in the 70s to, include more characters. Everybody needed their Batman and Robin. And I feel like Captain America here has Falcon. This Captain America, who was Falcon, has a Falcon, and Red Wing is kind of a Falcon. And then these Falcons are Falcons. There's so many Falcons. I don't know what to do about it. Going out of control.
If I'm a Falcon, I'm like, dude, you gave up the Falcon thing. You're Captain America now. We're not coming to your rescue. You were too good to be the Falcon. Go get a captain to help you. Go get Captain Morgan to come running.
You can't be Captain Falcon. How hard would that be?
Did his family have a Falcon crest? Thank you. I'll see myself out.
Thank you, Morgan Fairchild. Who am I married to?
My wife, Morgan Fairchild.
Who I've seen naked.
Yep.
Wait, is 4, by the way, that's Chance the Rapper's thing, right? I feel like that's a specific logo.
Well, what about me makes you think I can answer this for you?
Everything.
You're asking a question.
Everything.
We've known each other for a while now. You think that I'm going to be able to answer your question about Chance the Rapper?
I'm gonna go with no chance. You would know that.
I feel like you grabbed the panel that we have here and we'll describe for our audio audience. He does say, I'm Captain America. And I do like when they use the superheroes logo in the word balloon. And I can do this all day. And I felt like we'd kind of burned through that line, by Endgame. And, the past Steve is like, I could do this all day. And he's like, yeah, I know. So it's interesting that Sam, Captain America, uses that line in this book. And I'm not going to lie. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It's just we've heard that.
I had the exact same feeling. It's like, I thought the logo was cute. And they did it with also Black Panther, where he said his name it was put in the perfect Black Panther font. But also, I mean, let's be honest, he would have no chance. I know, Brady, it's something you bring up. It's like the idea of he's just a regular dude, and that guy's got a suit of vibranium. And not to mention, he also is super strong. And so, I'm sorry, courage and spirit is all well and good, but there's a reason why I don't pick fights with guys that I think could kick my ass, which is most people. So I tend to, peaceful resistance. Or mock them as I drive away quickly, Again,
he doesn't have a vibranium suit, but he does have birds.
So. Right. So many birds.
And who knew Wakanda was so rich in falcons?
Right.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm still reeling from Falcon Crest. It's trying to come back.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. But it's at least we're talking about all the shows that are on TV and first run now that are very popular.
21 Jump Street was referenced in Spider-Man. So
yeah, that's right. Keep watching for us to talk about Greatest American Hero, not just the theme song. We'll get into William Catt and the
entire overall.
When is the big Manimal episode that we're doing?
You beat me, Brody. I was about to say Manimal.
I think we can look up when a Manimal
right there.
When is the maniversary of Manimal?
Ring the bell, Biddy.
Oh, but no belt for no chance. Come on.
No, you deserved it too.
You didn't ask
Thank
for
you.
it. That's the thing. You gotta
Shouldn't have to ask for it.
All right, so we've already had the 40th anniversary of Manimal. It premiered in September 1983, so we have to come up with another angle for it. I don't have it, but look, I agree with Eric what you said before. I really enjoyed this book. I thought this was a great story, and I am, as I so often am, but usually don't do. I am definitely intrigued about sort of seeing where this story goes. But I felt like, it was good. These issues 0 through 5 was kind of a perfect ending point for us to talk about here in the book club for the merry month of February. But I thought these are the kinds of stories that I can expect Captain America, Sam Wilson, to be a part of in the future. Will there be a Captain America 5? I don't know. I thought there'd be a Shang-Chi Part 2 by now. So what do I know? But I don't know. And, Crossbones is someone who, was featured in the MCU, but kind of never really fully realized. But we did get to at least spend some time with him. So it's nice when we get these characters. Any final thoughts from you gents on this specific series, this Captain America series? I will ask you first, Mr. Brody.
I thought the cultural aspect was very well written. I think a look into the world of what the world is like for Black people was tremendously well done. I think gave a great understanding of the way they talk about the world and the way they're treated and all, and the Wakanda aspect and migrate. I thought that was all very fascinating. I thought that was much better written than the fight scenes, which was my major, and the ending where I just saved you all. I think Shuri was terrible. So I really enjoyed the Misty Knight and the conversations and the introspective parts of the story. I just thought, to Eric's point and to my point that I didn't say before Eric said it, him fighting Black Panther is a non-starter for me. You can't fight Black Panther as Sam Wilson.
Yeah, I do think Black Panther,
it's
almost like Daredevil versus Spider-Man in Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Black Panther doesn't want to be fighting Cap here. So you're just going to, the way that I took that is I'm like, all right, he really didn't try on that, but that's not even really the way it was written. But I agree with you. That's a matchup that you can't win, Cap.
You shouldn't even start. I mean, he's got claws. I mean, he says to him, why don't you take off that outfit and, fight, have an even fight. Well, why should he? Why did you leave your suit home? Like, because you didn't take the serum. So don't blame. And besides, Black Panther, T'Challa, has powers because of the flower thing he ingested. Yeah. The suit is just an added bonus, but he can kick your ass as T'Challa.
Right.
So
he takes off the suit. Guess what? You're still losing terribly.
You're still losing. You're still Sam Wilson.
Remember, again, you're talking about the big screen Black Panther. You take him out of the suit, he's still Jackie Robinson or James Brown. He's going to kick your ass as Jackie Robinson or James Brown, especially James Brown. So I think
he's still Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. I don't think that was the character name, though.
I don't think that was. By the way, in the chat, Kama Egan says Geekscape reviews classic TV next on our list, Sledgehammer. It's interesting you mention that. That is one of my favorite TV series, and I do have a plan for a 40th anniversary of Sledgehammer, but I looked it up earlier this year. It's 1986, so we're gonna have to wait a little while. But I do follow creator of that show, Alan Spencer, on social media and have some light interaction. So I would love to talk to him about that show.
Name dropping.
The great David Rashi, who played Sledgehammer. That was one of my absolute favorite shows on television as a kid. And the 2-issue Marvel comic book tie-in, I have both of them. So in any case, look, a future Geekscape Book Club entry, the 2 issues of Sledgehammer, the tie-in.
They sold almost 7 copies of that.
There's some crazy stuff that they would do, stuff like that. We can do the Care Bears series that Marvel had. yeah, legitimately, I could probably, drop some knowledge on a Thundercats issue or two, but I would do the whole episode as Snarf, and I don't think anybody wants that.
You could do an entire series of Snarf, and I'd be here for it.
All right, well, you know what? That's something to think about. We'll see.
It's too damn bad that Captain Carrot was DC Comics. Otherwise, we could.
You know what? We could do
on
that
that.
on a that'd have to be a standalone show elsewhere on Geekscape, but
Well,
not here on MMT.
What I'd pitch though is like we all have to find the sort of most obscure comic or comic tie-in and basically procure it for everyone. And so we sort of do an exchange. So you do the Sledgehammer one,
Look up
maybe the What If Saturday Night Live one, you know, like
Saturday Night Live is definitely the one, or the David Letterman one.
Yeah.
The Avengers issue with David Letterman, the Marvel Team Up 74 with Saturday Night Live. The most obscure tie-in is actually Quest Probe, which was a video game that didn't sell well, and the comics sold worse, so badly so that they didn't publish a fourth issue with the X-Men. It got repurposed a couple years later for Marvel Fanfare. A book that was curated by Al Milgram, who I talked to extensively on this channel, just referencing and sub-referencing time and time again. Well, I hope everyone like Cam A. Egan does indeed check out this book. I did enjoy it, and I'm interested in more from this team and also from this series. I want to see more. So Symbol of Truth. We will be back in the book club in March. And I believe that I like this idea of piggybacking on our Marvel movie talk tie-in. So I think on March 26th, after we cover what will be 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again, we will be discussing Daredevil Born Again from issues 227 to 233 by the great Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli. If anyone watching or on screen with me has not read this series, I highly recommend it, even if you're not able to join us here on the book club to watch it. This is this, for me personally, reading in real time new issues being published, this just redefined Daredevil for me. It was years later when I went back and read the earlier Frank Miller Elektra Bullseye stuff. I mean, this just destroys this man's life, and it is a very unlikely impetus as to how Wilson Fisk finds out that Matt Murdock is Daredevil. So this is a book I'm very excited to talk about here on the book club. We do more often than not. We are covering books that none of us have read, but this is one of those ones that I think is very much worth reading. I'm very excited for that. And I hope you're both able to join us for that. And everyone in the chat, you have your homework. I will be reading my individual issues of this. I don't need to look for it digitally. I don't have to find a trade paperback. And Eric, I would let you borrow them as long as you read them in a hermetically sealed room with rubber gloves on. That'd be
I'd have to wear a hazmat suit and a condom.
Well, yeah, that last one went without saying. Which, oddly enough, that's how you're going to have to show up when we go see that monkey movie next week. In any case, see, Brody, see the fun things you'd get to do if you lived in Burbank.
All I have to do is subtract 3 hours and I'll be there. Do the math on it and I'll be there.
Yeah, you subtract 3 hours. I was like, wait, don't you add 3 hours? I got confused. But that's what happened.
That's why my mother-in-law calls us sometimes at 2 a.m. She gets very confused by things.
No, that makes sense. Yeah. So in any event, I appreciate everybody in here. And Cami Egan mentions this, that I didn't know that the Beatles had a Marvel comic. I've never even seen that.
Kiss did.
Yeah. Now you're talking about a special that we need to do. Is the 2-issue Kiss comic book. What were we going to say?
Printed with their own blood, as you know.
As I know. Yeah.
Oh God. It's actually the inside lining of the Kiss coffin is just that. So you can read it while you get buried. Lawrence Welk, they did a comic about it was like stories of the road of different singers. So there is a Lawrence Welk comic book out there too, which feels in 2025 how we're going to get a whole legion of new fans.
So
yes, all of the talk bubbles are actually bubbles.
sorry about the bubbles, tiny bubbles, everyone. A wonderful Geekscape Book Club. The Beatles story actually is a Marvel Super Special from 1978, so that's interesting. That is at the time where Lorne Michaels was offering the Beatles $3,000 to appear on Saturday Night Live, and if they wanted to give Ringo less, that's up to them. I'm actually very intrigued by this book. I appreciate that. And
they perform Captain America's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Chris Tuttle says in Scotland we only have Woolley and the Bruins, but I'll tune in. So we appreciate that very much. Chris Tuthill is one of the people who could have given me the assist on Tom Myers. I'm embarrassed that I forgot his name, but he's such an awful comedian.
So thank you again for comparing us to them.
Yeah, it's great.
Hey, you got you got compared to the co-host of the Creep Off, the great Vinnie Paulino, and I think that you're almost as handsome as he is. So I think that's
life dreams.
Yeah. Hashtag squad goals. In any case, we do hope that everybody joins us for Daredevil Born Again. Not only the Geekscape Book Club, but over on Marvel Movie Talk, we will be doing our coverage of that throughout March, beginning on March 5th. You can watch us live on YouTube March 5th, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, although I'm only going to be giving Pacific time from now on. No more Eastern time. I'm just going to only give Pacific time because someone gets confused, and that someone is Sam Wilson. In any case, Mr. Brody, where can people find you? And you're adding 3 hours to the schedule.
You could find me in the East Coast time zone at 2:46 p.m. as I'm saying this.
What? That's the future. What happens in the future? Do you have a gray sports almanac?
Who wins the Sixers game?
Doctor Strange and a spider will appear with a okay. You can find me on the Brooklyn Boys podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And apparently I'll be doing March 26th, hopefully, the Daredevil Born Again Geekscape Book Club. So I'm excited about that.
And Mr. Conner, yes. Epstein's mother wants to know where she can find you.
Well, you can find me and my dubbed bootleg of the Doobie Brothers over at Count Eric Conner on Instagram and X. and definitely go. The Geekscape universe is only getting larger and not at all scary like the multiverse of madness. No. So please go find myself and Christian and Brody and Katie. We're all over the place.
Please find Katie.
Yeah,
take my Katie, please.
And find Mr. Conner on Blue Sky, where I just followed him.
Oh, that's right. I am on Blue Sky.
Oh, Mr. Blue Sky.
Yeah.
So.
He's Mr. Blue Sky.
I'm so used to doing shows with you guys. I did something. It was here on Geekscape, and I mentioned this. We looked at Saturday Night Live's 50th anniversary, and I was joined by some fellow former NBC pages. And at one point, one of the guys was like, "I'm sorry, I got to ask, what's with the bell?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot."
Well, if you're doing an SNL thing, though, you should have had a cowbell.
That's true. I've got a fever, and the only solution is more
of Christian's bell.
Yeah, the Blackcast 100 bell.
Oh wow, I didn't realize it was engraved. That's amazing.
Yeah,
a monogrammed bell
from the great Matt and KC, who is we don't have a Patreon, but Matt and KC is the Blackcast patron. He created our t-shirts. He got us that bell, and he used to send us barbecue from Kansas City every year. So yeah,
look at Eric. Eric's like, oh, forget about the bell. What about the barbecue?
We got friends in high places.
Burnt ends in Kansas City is.
Speaking of bird ends, no, but I would like everyone to follow me on social media at Christian DMZ. I am also on Blue Sky. I'd love Blue Sky to become a thing. I will occasionally be judged for still using Twitter /X. I'm like, I got the most followers there. If if like 4,000 people want to follow me on Blue Sky, maybe I'll stop using it, but that hasn't happened yet. So, but anyway, there is all kinds of great stuff throughout the Geekscape universe that I'm a part of, including the Saturday Night Live specials. And I'm recording a special that'll post next week sometime. It is the 50th anniversary of Alice Cooper's Welcome to My Nightmare. And I'll be joined by Metal Blade Records CEO Brian Slagle, host of 100 Songs That Define Heavy Metal, the show I actually make money off of. And from the Three Sides of the Coin Kiss podcast, Mark Cicchini and comedian Don Jameson. So we'll be talking about I got a murderer's row. I can line people up.
That's a legitimate lineup as comedians and metal experts. I'm in for that. I'll watch that.
Well, that'll be fun. I'm very excited. It gives me an excuse to rewatch the TV special of Welcome to My Nightmare, which of course I have on standard def DVD.
The only way to watch it.
And VHS.
Christian, will you cover the Man Behind the Mask from Alice Cooper as well? I know it's not on that album.
No, that's from 1986. It's Friday the 13th, Part 6, which that'll be the 40th anniversary of it next year. So maybe I'll do it on the same day I cover Sledgehammer. And not the Peter Gabriel song.
Reason to be alive one more year.
Yeah, that's right. Just hang it. Yeah, 1 year more, as they say. In any case, that is all the time we have here for the book club. Make sure to join us in March. There's plenty of other stuff to check us all out. My personal podcast, Blackcast, BLADTCAST. Who Are These Broadcasters? Tuesdays, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the Who Are These Podcasts YouTube channel. But that's all the time we have for now. And as we say here in the book club, if they keep writing them, we'll keep reading them. See you in March, everybody.